Hello again, everybody, and welcome to You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterlling, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes from the bettor's perspective. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined by Lee Sterlling himself of Paramount Sports. And Lee, the Miami Hurricanes won the game last week, but by a little margin of a half a point. Vegas always seems to get these things right. They did not win against the point spread, and that means that now they are 0-7 in the last 7 weeks against the point spread. Maybe things will turn this week against Florida State when there was a pretty generous line. I hope some Canes fans got in when it was 9. It drifted down to 8.5, 8. It's now 7.5. So the money has been going in on the Hurricanes against Florida State. We'll talk about that one in a minute. But I don't know how the heck they got this thing right in the Virginia game. I mean, what it took for that to be a 2-point game is just insanely, absolutely insane. I mean, Miami shutting down its offense to accommodate a rattled Jake Garcia who was nervous to attack, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. They're having to run on 3rd and 8, even with the game on the line, because they were afraid that they might suffer a turnover that would take them out of overtime. Just an absolutely unbelievable thing to watch from a betting perspective. I was feeling the whole way for those Canes fans out there that like to wager on their team that now have watched Miami continue to lose every game against the spread this season. Unbelievable. But your thoughts on what you saw in the Virginia game and as it pertained to the bettor?
Gary, if someone's betting on Miami every single game, there's going to be nothing left for Christmas gifts or Hanukkah gifts. I've never seen anything like this.
It's just amazing.
We've had some rough years in the last 20 years, but nothing like this against the spread. So, they've had some decent performance. That was a bad Virginia team. I mean, Brandon Armstrong, not the same quarterback. This is not a quality team. I mean, the positive is they won, but they didn't cover and still got a lot of work to do. So we're hoping to see improvement. I think we'd like to feel better going into the Florida State game. We'll dive into the game, but I didn't see many positives. I mean, the defense played hard with what they had.
Yeah.
We're still shorthanded, a lot of positions. No, but guys got to step up. I don't think there's ever been that much difference between some of the starters and backup guys. And some guys just got to play better. Now, it's all or never. If it doesn't happen this week, we might have to go on strike or something. I don't know.
Well, it was a little scary when very un-Mario Cristobal-like, he kind of acknowledged that midweek that Tyler Van Dyke was back at practice and it was looking very favorable that he was going to play in the game on Saturday. And you hope that is correct and that Tyler Van Dyke is on course to play against Florida State, because it's a big difference for the offense. We have found that out the last 2 weeks when Tyler is not out there. But I also thought it was a little weird that Mario kind of gave that away in the middle of the week. And there's a part of me that says, nah, Mario Cristobal is way too slick for this. Like, I think, maybe it's really going to be Jake and he's trying to throw Florida State off a little bit into thinking that it's Tyler. My guess is Florida State's going to prepare for both and not pay too much attention to the insinuation that Tyler Van Dyke will be playing. But from a betting perspective, Lee, which is what we're here to talk about, there's a big difference between whether Tyler Van Dyke is playing and Jake Garcia is playing. And I think the reason why we saw the line go from 9, 8.5, 8 to 7.5 and the money coming in at Miami was purely the notion that Tyler Van Dyke might be able to play.
So just one more thought about last week. Like I said, I thought the effort was good, but I did not like, and I said this from the beginning, I even told everyone before the year started, Mario's got to be better in game decisions. I thought with all these coaches that he hired, hire someone who knows when to make certain decisions. He called the timeout 3 times before deciding whether to go for it or kick a field goal. I mean, you got to know before that. I mean, that just is.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he did that. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt.
You got to have your mind made up. You got to have your mind made up beforehand.
Yeah,
If it's 4th and 2, 4th and 5, 4th and 8, whether you're going or not, that's a head coach's responsibility. There's some NFL teams that hire certain people, and that's all they do is they make decisions. They tell you what you should do. And that's something he maybe wants to consider because that's his weakness. His players have a lot of weakness. We're trying, the goal in the end is to win a national title. I mean, we're not settling, there's going to be no Coastal next year. It used to be a couple of years ago, oh, we want to win the Coastal. It's all about winning a national title. And if it takes us 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is, that's what the goal should be. And how do we get there? So that's just my thoughts on it. So we won the game. Kids played hard, but that's something I noticed Mario needs to do.
Yeah, so, a lot of people noticed that, Lee. And another choice he had would have been just take the 5-yard penalty from where they were punting from. It wouldn't have mattered. Right. It was a short field anyway, so that would have been an option. I'm trying to think of why he would have chosen, unless it's somebody that's giving you some scoop on the Florida State game. Tell them they have to wait, Lee. But we don't right. we don't have time right now, unless they got an angle or something for us. But talking of angles, I was trying to think, why would Mario choose to take timeouts in those situations? Right. And the only thing I could think of is maybe he didn't want he wanted to give the punt team time to be organized. I mean, there's no excuse, Gary, for it. It just doesn't make sense. But he obviously, in his mind, he had a reason for doing it. So we never really got that explanation. They weren't really pertinent moments in the game at the end of the day. It'll come back, Gary. If it will, he was that undecided 3 times in a row, it's probably going to come back. So he's got to decide. Yeah. These things and work on that himself. Especially in the second half. What if it was in the second half? Then it can affect the game. Right. So let's talk about the line here. Quarterbacks, a Tom Brady in his prime, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, when they are out for a game, used to be the most you would ever see was 7 points. And we're talking about the greatest of the great quarterbacks to a backup who is pedestrian at best. Mm-hmm. So now we've seen some games go 8.5, 9 points, believe it or not, in the NFL. I do believe that Tyler's worth 5 or 6 points to this team. So I think Jake can play better. But the bottom line is the week before, the line was 2.5 if you wanted to bet the game. Florida State minus 2.5. Went to as high as 9. So that's like 6.5 points. Now it's come down to 7.5 because I still think there's some indecision here. So they're straddling the fence a little bit. Right. Okay. So I'm not. I will not have a bet. I don't have a bet on the game. This is one of those games I'm personally going to wait until I see warmups, and I'm probably not going to bet the game unless I can get at least 7. If Miami's getting 7 and Tyler's playing, I'm going to bet the game. If he's not, the line's going to probably go up to 9, will be my best guess. And I probably will not play the game because I think Florida State will then probably win the game by 7 to 14 points. I think Miami's going to give a great effort. Just got to, we got to stay away from the big plays. The key is, I've talked about this even on the show before. When guys rush, don't just go all out. It's not so important just to get a sack. Put pressure on the quarterback and don't allow him to run. Stay in your lane. You got to maintain your pocket integrity. Yeah. Yes. And defensive linemen have to at all times be mindful of, okay, I'm rushing as he's about to throw it, get my hands up. But before then, be prepared for him going left or right of me. And we don't see that enough with this team. So I'm excited about the game, even though we've not played well. I think we can play much, much, much better. And I think the kids will be up. I think the crowd will even be into it, and it'll help the players. I think we've got to throw the ball to set up the run. I don't think we can just line up and beat Florida State off the ball. Not that they're great defensively, but you got to have a game plan. And my game plan would be
throw to set up the run, maybe some hurry up, change the defenses. You've got to show different looks and not allow the big play. And
yeah, I agree. They definitely are not going to beat Florida State with the same game plan that they used against Virginia. I feel pretty certain about that. But Lee, I've watched Florida State a little bit this year, and I'm a little mystified by this team. I watched their game against LSU and their game against Louisville. I thought they were very lucky to win. I thought they got some real breaks in that game that allowed them to escape with some close victories. Okay. Then they lost 3 in a row. Lee, this could be a 4 or 5 loss team in a heartbeat. Why are they coming to Miami in a heated interstate rivalry and getting the level of respect that they're getting from the odds makers?
Because Miami's been so bad. That's it. They've been, a couple of weeks ago, this line, if they had played the way they were, they might even be higher. So, if Jake was playing. So it'll be interesting. You don't have to play every game. Like I said, if Jake starts, I'll sit it out. I'll watch the game and just root for Miami. I do think, though, if Tyler plays, I think you're going to see a different Miami team. I think you're going to see a confident team, a fired up team playing well. We've seen some teams of Miami that were good and not great, like in the 90s, that knocked off Florida State. Some teams that were better than them. And that's what you see in rivalry games. Kids play above their talent level, or at least close to their talent level. So
essentially, the line will determine what your prediction is on this game. Your individual betting choice is one thing, but depending on where this line lands, 7, 8, 9, 6, even.
And Tyler playing. And Tyler playing. So I'll tweet it out as soon as we know for sure if he's starting. If he's starting and Miami's getting 7 points or more, I'm betting Miami. If not, I'm not betting the game at all. And we'll just watch
what if Tyler Van Dyke is starting and the line goes to where it probably should have been in the first place, like 3 or 4? What
probably
happens?
Won't play the game.
But what would you like? You might not play the game. You might not give it to your clients. But what would you like in that scenario?
I'd have to be getting at least 4 points minimum
to take Miami.
Yeah.
So in your mind, Miami's going to be challenged very much to win this game.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out.
Quarterback
Gary, I'm going to tweet it out right when 5-10 minutes. We know for sure who's going to start. I will tweet it out and I'll say the line is so and so, and this is what I'm betting. And that way, there won't be. We come back on the show next week. Someone will say, "Oh, well, you didn't say this. The line was this." I'll tell you exactly.
The only one that could do that is me, Lee.
Right.
I'm the only one with a microphone on this show.
No, I know, but there's people.
I'm joking. I'm joking, obviously.
Yeah.
But
the voice of social media.
But it doesn't sound, like I said, like you don't sound confident in a Miami victory from a betting perspective for sure. You think Florida State right now has looked to you like the better team this year?
Absolutely. Yeah. Offense, defense. Their kicker isn't great. We probably have an advantage with a kicker. So, and punter maybe.
And, 8 games into the season, you haven't played a complete game. It gets kind of hard to flick that switch.
What would you say is the best half we played? Southern Miss second half, maybe?
Southern Miss second half, probably. Okay. If you take out the muff punt and the 2 missed field goals, I thought they played pretty well at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I didn't think they played horrendous in that game at all. The whole season's just been an absolute disaster. What a mess this season became, and I think it became a little chaotic because they're always correcting something. They couldn't really get dialed.
1 week it was the big plays, Gary. Next week it was the penalties, then the injuries.
Just spin something.
I'd like to see the team at full strength and just play one game well and see where they're really at. So
yeah, and then the question is, can you just flick that switch in week 9 of the season and suddenly become that team? We're going to find out,
right?
But I don't know, man.
We've seen some teams that lose their coach. An interesting game Might be Auburn. They're playing Mississippi State, getting 2 touchdowns. They've shown pretty much nothing the entire season. I think one game they played well. Sometimes you have the angle, the coach getting fired angle, and they play well for one game. Don't ever back them twice. But
I remember that year when Larry Scott was the interim coach at Miami, and it was similar. Like they played better under Larry Scott than they played earlier in the season. So I mean, I see what you're saying. All right, there's a couple other games that we wanted to talk about. The Georgia Bulldogs are 8-point favorites at home against a Tennessee team that, to me, is insanely overrated right now. They've got them up at the top of the college football playoff rankings off of their performance to this point this season. Obviously, degree of difficulty is amped up this weekend for Tennessee going to Georgia. I know who I like in that game. What are your thoughts?
So I think that Tennessee has the potential to win the game outright. They get going. It's a 1-game series. This isn't best of 3, best 5, best of 7. Georgia has the number 2 offense, number 4 defense. Tennessee, number 1 offense, number 82 defense. I just think that Alabama is not that good a team this year. And I think the Georgia DBs are good enough to stay with Tennessee for the most part here. And I think even though the Georgia offense maybe isn't as high-powered as Alabama, they can ground it out. They have 2 really good running backs, a little bit different. They have good receivers, but a great tight end. And they are really physical. Also very good special teams here. Going on the road is going to be tough for Tennessee. They got to play Kentucky and also Alabama at home. And then at LSU game, they're up 20-0 on some turnovers right off to start the game. So do I think Stetson Bennett's great? No, but probably right for this team here. And I think Tennessee defense is the weakest component of the game, and I think they'll be exploited. I like Georgia, 48-34.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you had said I think you got a couple teams confused there earlier. You said Tennessee, but so you like Georgia?
No, I like some things. I think Tennessee's offense is scary good.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, like I said, it's 1 game. I think the Georgia defense, which is not as good as last year, but still 4th ranked, has some really good players, especially on the back end. They were up big over Florida. We won that. That was another game that we won here by a point. 23-point spread they were getting. They lose by 22. They were dominating that game. Yeah. So I think they were looking ahead at halftime.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the party's over for Tennessee this week. They're having a nice season. They're 8-0 right now, but I got to think Georgia's roster is much more deep and much more complete than Tennessee's, and the game is at Georgia. I personally don't give Tennessee much of a chance in that game. The other one we wanted to talk about, Clemson is -3.5 at Notre Dame. And I love that line, and I know what team I love, and I got a feeling I know what team you're going to say you love. Your thoughts on that game?
So Notre Dame has played well. Last 6 games, they've won 5 of 6. Strong rushing attack, playing some smash ball, and then mixing some passes underneath quarterback Drew Pine, mainly to future NFL tight end Michael Mayer. But I think they're limited. And Clemson is battle tested. They're getting better. They got 2 quarterbacks, really good running back in Will Shipley, gained 293 yards, averaging over 6.2 yards per carry in the last 2 weeks, and really good in the red zone. And the receivers, they don't have that one receiver you go, wow, he's a first rounder, but they have a lot of guys that are really good, holding on to the ball better this year. I think it took a while for their new offensive and defensive coordinator get used to the personnel and play calling, but done a good job here. I like Clemson. I think they up their record to 9-0, move on. A couple weeks looks like playing North Carolina for the ACC championship.
Yeah, I don't know that I see anybody slowing down Clemson here this year. And it's not because they're so great. It's just that there's nobody that's going to slow them down. Miami probably is not going to be able to be ultra competitive up there. And North Carolina, for sure, I don't feel confident is going to be able to.
Oh, North Carolina will score some points on it. North Carolina will score points on everyone.
Yeah.
So they'd need to have a bunch of turnovers to have a chance to win it. So
yeah, so Miami's lamenting that losing that 3-point game to North Carolina a few weeks ago. But at the same time, this season has been such a struggle to sit here and talk about an ACC championship game appearance. Probably doesn't really matter right now. Just trying to finish the season on a good note, get to a bowl game, have a decent bowl game, and then go build in the offseason. And there'll be a lot of room to do that. All right, that's going to do it for today, Lee. You got anything exciting going on at Paramount Sports?
Yep. So we hit our NFL game of the year. Last week we had the New England Patriots.
Oh, what did you call it? The 45-pointer or something?
50 unit.
Okay.
Strongest play.
Sorry,
and what's funny was I had a client
terminology there.
Yeah, so we'd rate them from 10 to 50 units.
Yeah.
So people know how to gauge their wagers. So I had a client call me and say to me, this is like a 3 or 4 touchdown winner. I'm like, no. He's like, well, why am I betting 50 units? I'm like, it's going to cover. They're going to win and cover.
Which game was that again?
New England playing the Jets.
Right.
They were laying 2.5. They won by 5. Jets scored a touchdown with like less than 2 minutes to go and garbage time, and then tried the onside kick. But I said to my client, they're going to win by 3, 4, 6, or 7 points probably. And turned out they win by 5, right in between that number. But just
felt a little closer than you were hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, the score was, but I felt pretty good going into the fourth quarter. What I'm looking for is the right matchup, the right situational play, the right line, injuries, whether you take everything into account. And we've won 10 out of 12 weeks since the start of the preseason. So I don't know many people that can make that claim. It's all documented. Wow. Go onto my website, ParamountSports.com, under recent results. You can see every game I've given my client this year and over the last 5 years. And we don't call it November here. We call it Dovember.
Well, now you know what teams look like. It's a little
right. You got the money behind you. So, right. Dovember. 4 weeks for $297, or you can get through the Super Bowl, $597. There's still a lot of time, a lot of games to be played in college football. 9 weeks left in the NFL season. And college football bowls, there's 35, 36 of them. NFL playoffs and Super Bowl, $297 for the month or $597 through the Super Bowl. Check us out, ParamountSports.com.
All right, well, Dovember's here. Yep. And you Miami Hurricanes bettors, the odds are in your favor. I mean, they're not. I can't imagine going an entire season without.
You would think they got to. Yeah, you would think they got to cover.
I mean, the odds are definitely in your favor for a cover.
Wouldn't it be perfect, first, Gary? The last couple of years, Florida State, all they cared about was beating Miami. Let's ruin their season, right?
Yes, sir. No doubt about it. All right, for Lee Sterling, I'm Gary Furman. Thank you for joining us once again on You Bet CaneSport, and we'll see you next time, everybody.